Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host, and today we have a brilliant artist on the line with us, Janna Willoughby-Lohr, and we're going to be talking about how it's possible to run a business as an artist and to actually do the things that you love to do and have a family and be successful. And we just want to bust that myth right out of the water. So hang on for just a second. We'll be right back. It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. So Janna Willoughby-Lohr is an artist, poet, musician, and entrepreneur based in Buffalo, New York. She's been performing poetry and music for over 20 years as her alter ego, MC Vendetta. Her business, Papercraft Miracles, is a handmade paper art company specializing in unique, sustainable gifts that bring meaning to people's lives. Janna was the recipient of a $25,000 Ignite Buffalo Award in 2018 and was named 40 Under 40 for stationery and gifts in 2019. Her company has done specialty jobs for many large companies, including Twitter and Capital One. And we are stoked to have you here. Welcome, Janna.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your journey, because I know a lot of people listening are either just starting out in business or wishing they could start a business and have some sort of success with it. How was that sort of journey for you? How did you find your way into running your own business?
So when I first went away to college, I had decided I was going to be a writer and went to school for that. And as soon as I got to school, I had this crazy creative energy and I was like, I have to make stuff, because I'd always done like collaging and stuff on my own. And my school had all these amazing book arts classes. So I started taking paper making and book binding and just immediately fell in love with it. I was like, this is my jam. I can incorporate this with my poetry. That's what I want to do. It was like, people said love at first sight. It was like love at first sight with me and book arts for sure. And I took a whole bunch of these fun classes. And at the end of my freshman year, I went and met with my advisor. And I was like, so these are all the classes I took. What major am I working toward? And he just goes, those are all electives, so nothing. And I was super broke. My mother was super broke. And I just kept thinking, like, I cannot have wasted an entire year of school not working toward a major. Like, I can't do more than 4 years. It's not happening. So I said to him, well, like, shit, what am I going to do? And he said, well, what do you want to do? And thank God he asked me that question, because I said, well, I love making this paper. I love making these books and doing poetry and being creative. And I don't want to be poor. How do I do that? And he said, you should do that as your major. Thank God for John Casey, man. Every single day, I'm just like so eternally grateful that he was assigned as my advisor instead of anybody else. And he told me that they had this major called Integrative Studies where I could make up my own major. And he said, you already know what you want to do. You should make up your own major and spend your 4 years doing exactly what you want to do, because none of these other majors are going to do what you want to do. So do that. And so I did. I made up my own major. I picked out all the classes I wanted to take in 4 years. I took a HTML class and learned how to build a basic website. It's on Angel Fire, like way, way back in the day. Do not try to find it. It's terrible. So I built this super crazy little tiny website and had a little print catalog I made on Photoshop and made a business plan and did a 25-page paper and presented it to the board and graduated with a BA in entrepreneurial creative business arts, my own major that I made up. And I came up with the name of my company when I was 19, 20 years old. And I just did it as a side gig for a really long time until after I had my first son, which kind of gave me the impetus to say, well, if I go back to work, I'm going to spend all the money I make in healthcare and daycare and pay someone else to raise my kid. And it just didn't make sense. And my husband just said, okay, it's whatever. Just stay home and do your book thing. And the rest, as they say, is history.
I love that. I also went to art school, and while I made a lot of art, I also spent probably 8 or 9 years after college really struggling as an artist and not wanting to do something professional that wasn't in alignment with my, version of creativity. I didn't want to be like pigeonholed into something, or I didn't want my creativity to be dictated by a commission or something like that. So I finished art school and really worked as a waitress. I quit and got fired from so many different jobs, and I still had like many years of having to overcome this limiting belief that to be an artist means you have to be broke, or to be an artist means you have to be struggling. Did you have to deal with that archetype at all, or that sort of story that happens in society that being an artist means you have to struggle?
I definitely did. And especially at first, being, 21 years old, a recent college graduate. And this is in 2004 when I graduated, and social media wasn't really a thing at this point. Like Facebook was not a thing. Nobody was on it. Nobody's doing any of that. But the Kindle had just come out, and like everything was starting to be really digital. So every time I told people I have this business where I make stationery and journals, and people like, everyone's going to be on LiveJournal. There is no future of paper. It's all over. That's stupid. Why do you even want to do that? And so I had to kind of fight against that. And since the art that I do isn't what a lot of capital A artists would consider like art, it's hard to show book arts in a gallery. Like there's not a lot of shows for that. There's not a lot of awards for that kind of stuff. And I kind of toe this little line in between like fine art and fine craft. So it's been kind of weird to be in this kind of middle ground state. And since I knew that was going to be a thing, when I graduated, I was like, I'm not even going to try and do that like gallery art thing, because most gallery artists I knew made no money at all ever. And so I was like, I'm just going to like keep doing my thing in this commercial state. And I did. After I graduated, I came home. My brother and I had inherited our house when we were 20 and 23 years old. So while I was still in college, our mom passed away. And so we had this house that was falling apart, and I really needed a steady paycheck to make sure I still had a roof over my head. So I worked at a gas station for 5 years after school, and just kind of made books for people and wedding invitations and whatnot in my free time, did craft shows here and there, and performed a lot of music and poetry shows, and kind of nickel and dimed it. I had my first ledger was like the back of a composition notebook where I wrote down like, I made this, I sold a CD at this show, I made this at this, I like made all my handmade CDs and all this stuff, and was definitely like had my hustle going on back in the day. And since I always had my space where I was working was in my apartment, and I never really had a lot of expenses related to my business. So I made a profit pretty much from day one, like whatever effort I put in, people bought stuff that I was making. And once I decided that I was going to quit my job and do this full time, I had to really change my whole mindset about it.
Yeah.
Because it had always just been like, this is my fun side gig, where it was like, if I make money, that's cool. If I didn't, I make art, and that's also cool, because that's what I really love to do. And once I quit my job and no longer got a comfy chair and health insurance from my job and didn't get a paycheck, it was really difficult for me to say, I'm going to be 100% reliant on my husband until I can make enough money where I can pay myself. And I am growing my company to the main goal that we had in me like staying home was A, to save money on childcare, but B was so that I could grow my company to replace his income so he can quit his job and start a business too. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of torn between like, I want to do this really fast so that he can quit his job sooner, but I also like only have so much time because I have 2 little kids. So I decided that the best way to grow it as fast as possible was to not pay myself at first and to put all of the profits back into the company. So I'm actually still technically doing that. I pay rent for the space that we're in, and the space that we're in is in a building that we own. So my company pays our family rent. But aside from that, I don't pay myself a salary right now, mm-hmm. which feels really weird to me to say like, I worked X number of hours a week, which is like a lot of hours a week considering I have 2 little kids, like at least 35 hours every week with 2 little kids. Yeah. To say like, I come home with no dollars, but that I'm building something that will take care of my family for the rest of my life, and to see it instead of my fun side gig. Like, this is my career and I'm willing to put in my own sweat equity for like 5 years.
Yeah.
To be able to scale it, because I can't do that without taking loans or selling a part of my company, which I don't want to do.
Totally. And 35 hours a week when you're the caregiver for 2 small children is a lot. It's a lot of time to pull away and to actually focus on yourself. I'm curious because I was just talking to one of my best friends who's working on her PhD right now and who has a toddler. And it's like, it's really challenging to be the mom who's at home, especially right now as everybody's staying at home still, and still carve out time to do something that's really important to you that's not necessarily about child rearing. So what are some of the things you had to do in order to make it possible to even work 35 hours a week?
Well, at first, before COVID, I did a lot of evenings and weekends, and I worked whenever my husband was home so that we didn't have to pay for any childcare. Mm-hmm. And he worked really hard, and we own a big, huge commercial building that needs a lot of attention, and he's a creative person too. So after a while of doing that, he's like, okay, I really need more time in the evenings and the weekends to like get some of the crap done that I have to do too. So you need to work more during the day. So I was like, well, I'll utilize as much free childcare as I can get from my parents and his parents. And we are super, super privileged and fortunate to have the help of our parents who live nearby. So I kind of utilized as much of that as I could, and it worked. And I started getting really busy and had way more work than I could ever do by myself in the couple of days a week that I had childcare. So I started paying somebody another 2 days a week to watch the kids. So I had 2 days with my parents and 2 days that I paid somebody. And it's hard to justify budgeting out money like that for childcare when you're not paying yourself. Mm-hmm. And it has definitely caused friction in my marriage to know that when I go to work, it costs us money. And, you know, when he goes to work, it costs us money because somebody's got to watch the kids. So I still tried to like do as much as I possibly can when he's around. And we spend a lot of money in childcare. Like, I'm not even going to lie. Yeah. It's expensive. And during COVID, our childcare resources like dried up. My kid couldn't go to school anymore. And he's in kindergarten now, but he was in pre-K at the beginning of the shutdown. And thank God my stepmother said she would still come and watch the kids so I could work. So she's been watching my kids 4 days a week for me since March. So props to her.
Yeah.
But I would just say like utilize every free minute that you can. And there are a lot of nights even now, because I have to do virtual kindergarten with him, where I don't even get to start my work day until he's done with his school stuff. He has to do 11:30 in the morning. And so I have to make up for those 3-4 hours that I had been working in the morning after they are, you know, eating dinner or when they go to bed. And a lot of the networking things I had been doing were already in the evening. So I have to like add a bunch of stuff to my plate in the evening. So I stay up really late.
Yeah.
But
see, that's your commitment to your dream. That's your commitment to your legacy. I think I've had some conversations recently where I was trying to like zero in on this point. When you care about something enough that you're willing to do whatever the fuck it takes to make it work, to make it happen, that your mindset about those little hours after work or those little hours after the kids go to bed or those late night hours because you really want to finish that project and send it off or finish that project so that it exists in the world, that you become relentless and like unstoppable in those moments because this thing, you know, could create the life you actually want to be living, could create the sustainability and the longevity and the legacy for your kids that you want to create in the world. And it's like, at some point we have to stop making excuses because it's not easy, because it's not downstream, because the simple thing would be to just watch my kids and let my husband work. But that's not the thing that you're being called to do. You're being called to play a bigger game. And I think that's really inspiring and really enlivening to me, because I don't have kids and I don't have a marriage and I don't have a property I have to take care of. I've sort of created a life with less responsibility than a lot of people, but I will still find the time in the wee hours to, you know, write a book or to create this Oracle deck that I made last year or to put another program together when I really don't have that much extra time right now. And I think that is a really beautiful message. Just remind people of that. No matter how full you think your life is, there's still a matter of prioritization that can occur that actually allows you to build the business of your dreams, to create the life of your dreams, and to make a world where you and your family get to live at a different state than you may have thought was possible, because you keep pushing for it, or you keep creating it and making it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to lie and say that it's easy. It certainly is not easy. It's not easy on me. It's not easy on our marriage, and it's not super easy on our kids. But I like the fact that my kids get to spend a lot of their time with adults that are not me. And so they learn so many things that I wouldn't be able to teach them. Mm-hmm. And when I was a kid, my parents were married to other people when I was born. And I had 5 parents who raised me all the time. And I went from one house to the next all the time. So I was kind of this like interloper, this little part-time. All of my family members were part-time for me. And so I got to learn different ways of interacting and how different relationships work, because I had 5 adults in my life all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think that the things I learned from being around all of those people helped me to learn enough experience, more than people would normally learn in 3 lifetimes, because most people typically have 1 or 2 parents, but not 5. And, you know, anytime one of my parents that was single got in a relationship with somebody else, there was another parent, and, you know, they decided to like take me on and like add me to their family too. And I'm super, super fortunate to have all these adults in my life who did that. And
how that,
my husband didn't really have that. His parents are married to each other. And so I see that I think it's really valuable for my kids to have that time with other adults. So it helps me to kind of fight against the mom guilt of, you know, because the mom guilt is real. Like, there is a thing, like, if you're a mom, you're either, and you go to work, then you're a shit mom because you go to work and you neglect your kids, right? I'm doing the air quotes for those of you who can't see me. And if you're a mom who is, quote unquote, just a stay-at-home mom, then you don't work and you don't contribute to your family. And then you're a shitty partner or whatever. Like, and nobody ever makes dads feel like shit for going to work, ever. And it is a real thing. And it's really difficult to fight against that. And so every day that my stepmom is running around with my kids, and today she showed up wearing a Batman costume, because my boys love costumes and they love Batman. And she like found an adult-sized Batman costume and is like running around out in the world with them today, like out at a playground in a park,
as Batman,
rubber boots in the rain in a Batman costume. And I was like, they're having that experience right now because I am working and I am doing what I love. Yeah. And they see that I do what I love. And that my kid asked me the one day, like, Mommy, why do you love working so much? And I was like, because I want you to feel like that about the work you do when you grow up. Like, yeah. I don't want my kids to grow up and say, oh, I have to go to work today. I hate my job. Because I grew up with my parents who hated their jobs. They didn't get to do the things they loved. And I was like, one thing I knew as a kid, I was like, I don't want that when I'm an adult. I don't want that.
I had the opposite experience where my mom worked like a boss, and she ran her own company as a screenwriter, and she worked all the time. We'd get home from work and she'd still be, get home from school and she'd still be in her office writing. And we would have, you know, somebody to take care of us when we were young enough, and also just take care of ourselves once we got old enough. But she'd still be in the house, but working her butt off to make her dream and her career successful. And I got to witness that. And I think that's why I didn't choose to go into a career I didn't care about when I was younger, because I knew that it was possible to have a career that you really, really cared about and be successful doing that. And I think that's a huge, huge gift that you're giving to your kids. And I'm glad that you're aware of that to watch your mother, or to watch anyone in your life who's an adult when you're a kid, be passionate about their career, to actually chase something they desire to do, and to not feel like they hate going to work, and to show that that's possible. The rest of society is trying to tell everyone that you have to like suffer through your job so you can make enough money to live. And the truth is, there is an ecstatic state of being that you can have with your work and your career. And that only isn't possible if we settle and never push for it and never explore it, never get curious about that. So I love that you're being a beacon for that for your kids. I'm curious, if you were to know that, you know, hundreds and maybe thousands of people were listening to this podcast, wishing they knew what they wanted to do for a living, or wishing they knew how to make money as an artist or as a writer, what would you want to say to those women?
I would say the thing that keeps you up at night. Think about the thing that keeps you up, the thing that makes you happy thinking about it at night. Like you can't stop scheming or thinking about like, oh, someday I'm going to do this. Someday I'm going to do that. That's your thing. And find that, grab a hold of it. Go on Instagram and search hashtag that thing and see what other people are doing and see what's possible out there. And then search for it on Google and find other companies that are doing similar things and like get an idea of what's possible and what's not possible. And if you can't find anybody doing that, that is totally your thing and make it happen. Because when I started doing this, you know, Google was a new thing, a pretty new thing in 2003. And I started searching just a random Google search for handmade books. And I would see how many people were making handmade books and selling them. And it was very, very small because Etsy also was not a thing. And there weren't online marketplaces. And people told me I was freaking nuts. And you know what? In like 2014, maybe 2015, it started to become the new cool thing for everybody to start having a bullet journal and everybody to start having an actual journal and to write letters to people again, because we had moved into this world where everybody had everything digital and people weren't having these face-to-face conversations. People weren't writing letters. They weren't writing in journals anymore. And it's different. Like people are really starving for that type of tactile aspect to life. When everything is so digital, it's really hard to feel like anything is real. And it's hard to channel emotions. I mean, as a poet, I know that for sure. When I'm not writing and I'm not interacting with people and having new experiences and then writing about them, it's really easy to get super detached from things that you really shouldn't be detached from. So I would, for years and years and years, I was like, this is my jam. I'm going to keep doing this, even if people think I'm crazy. And I just kept saying, you just wait, it's coming back around. And like, I remember when wedding invitations first came out, was like, people were like emailing out invitations to parties. And they're like, oh my God, no one's ever going to send out paper invitations again. And now everyone's like, oh, an Evite, I don't want to deal with that. And now people want these like extra special, super fancy wedding invitations that no one can get anywhere else. And I was like, I've been making those for like decades, you know? So it's just find that thing that you can't stop thinking about and just do it right now. Even if you can only do it 5 minutes a week, do it. Yeah. And if it's something that brings you joy, do it as many minutes as you can. Like take Facebook off of your phone and spend all the time that you were doom scrolling at 4 a.m. Get up and make art, or get up and write your book, and like do the things that really bring you joy right now. Because life is freaking short. It is short as hell. And some people would say to me like, oh, you could be spending so much more time with your kids when they're small or whatever, and you're not going to get that time back. And I was like, well, I could also not have any career at all. And then my kids go to high school and I have to try and start a company at 50. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend my entire adult life where I have lots of energy not doing what I love. Mm-hmm. Who knows? My mom died at 54. So I don't want to wait until I'm 50 to do what I love. I can't.
Yes. Yeah. And so beautiful that your mother's passing gave you that perspective of it's not worth waiting. Do all the things, have your kids and your business and eat your cake too.
Yeah. You know, and like, whatever. Do I fold my laundry all the time? Hell no, I don't. Nope. But most of the time it's clean. You know, dry shampoo is my homie. Like, what else? I mean, there are certain things like when people are like, oh, you can have it all. Like those like super crazy rich, super famous CEOs, usually a guy who says you can have it all. It's because they have other people in their lives who are picking up all the slack of all that laundry and cooking and all that bullshit that most people don't want to do. They've got somebody doing that who's either doing it because they love that family or they're doing it because they're being paid.
Right. And delegating is a whole nother realm of,
you literally cannot expect any one person, especially a mother, to run a full-time company, build it from the ground up, be freaking super mom, do virtual school, keep the house clean, and then also have time to like keep their spouse happy. Like no one person is ever doing all of that 100% of the time. And somebody told me I heard the other day that someone was talking about how do you keep all the balls in the air? And they said, you just have to know which one of those balls are plastic and which ones are glass. Because the ones that are plastic, like, let that shit fall, because it doesn't really matter. You can pick it back up later. And so I've gotten pretty good at like figuring out what stuff I can fall and which stuff I can throw to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And be willing to ask for support and get that help. And luckily you have family to help with the childcare, but you know, some people can't even find the strength to ask for help like that. And that's a huge thing of, hey, I have a dream. I have a mission. I have a thing I want to create. I want to spend more time on this. Can you help me out? Like, honey, can you wash the laundry this week? And like, mom or dad or whoever, can you come and watch the kids today? Because I want to give this my time and attention today.
I totally put in my Facebook newsfeed. I'm like, who can come watch my kids for a couple hours? I got to do something. I just, you know, and when people are saying, I could never afford to pay someone to clean my house for me, or I could never afford to pay someone to do this. If the amount of money you are paying someone to do that is less than you'd pay yourself per hour, or less than you could make if you were working during those hours doing what you love, then pay them and go work, because your time is better spent elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And once I figured that out, I was like, my time is always better spent doing something else than vacuuming. So I'm going to just pay someone else to do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's just worth it to me.
So tell us where to find you online about your business, and tell us a little bit about your podcast too.
Okay. So my business is actually called Papercraft Miracles. You can find us at papercraftmiracles.com. And I have a podcast called Reach the Stars Podcast, and I love it. It is so much fun. And you can find that at papercraftmiracles.com/Reach the Stars Podcast. And if it's on all of the podcast platforms, we have a YouTube channel, but you can stream audio or video directly from our website. And
you have an Instagram handle people can look you up right now?
Yep. The Instagram handle for the business is at Papercraft Miracles, and for the podcast is at reachthestars.podcast.
Awesome. Well, I am inspired by you. I'm, rooting for you and believe in you, and can't wait to spend more time on your website, because I love paper and I love crafts. And while I make a lot of art myself, I'm not that great with paper crafts, and, having stationery that you love and writing letters to people that you love is it's not a lost art. It's something that's really fun and really tender and caring to do. So I look forward to jumping on your website and getting some new stuff to play with and send out to people that I love.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And everybody, make sure you go check out papercraftmiracles.com. Give Janna a like and a follow. Check her out on Instagram. And whatever happens, keep asking big questions and taking bold action and being relentless in your vision for the future and your choice to create your life and believe in yourself. And we'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.